Hello, what's up everybody? Give me a shout out if anybody can hear me on the interwebs. Just giving this thing a second to load up as always. Okay, here we go. We got some peeps. Hello, how's everybody doing? Dougie, always consistent. I love it. How you doing, man? Damien, you can hear me? You can? Okay. I'm assuming you meant can. Yeah, give me a shout out if the audio's bad. I tried to mess around my last stream with playing around with a different mic. Didn't work out too well. But the headset is usually okay. Let's see, what do I got here? We got Facebook connected, Twitch is on, YouTube looks like it's okay. Dad joke. That's hilarious. Did you just make that up on your own? Do I want that one? I don't think I do. Alright, so I'm going to get cruising here. I am still trying to wrap up this freaking ZBrush mashup that I've just been working on slowly. I haven't touched this outside of, I got a little bit of a head start today trying to make some moves, but Dougie said yes, made by me because I have too much time on my hands. Yeah, well, you can take some of my workload. That would be fantastic. If you can't tell, I'm pretty burned out today, but I'm gonna try and make some stuff. Hopefully, I'll try and keep this interesting and want to get to doing. I'm starting to finalize all the final props. I was trying to get this jacket working, which it's kind of hard to see here. Let me see if I can pull up the other image. The contrast might be a little off, but he's got these sort of rivets in his jacket, and I've been trying to figure out a good way to get that kind of effect across the whole thing and still have some cool textures applied to it. So I'm kind of still in this phase where I'm going through and just creating these things first. Do you use default ZBrush keyboard? Well, actually, this is Ruhala. Tell me if I'm saying that correctly. But yes, for the most part, I'm using a regular standard keyboard, if that's what you mean. But as far as like ZBrush hotkeys and things, just so you know, I am using a custom UI, which I've sort of got mapped out to. I've got my own custom menu here. So I bring this up in the 2 key, and this is just stripping down all the stuff that I use, basically all my core essential features. And I do have some hotkeys. Most of the hotkeys that I'm going to be using, I'll try to call them out as I'm going, but pretty much standard stuff. Mirror and weld, I have mapped to Control-Shift-W. I have hotkeys for the polygroups features, which I tend to use a lot of auto groups, group by normals, and simple things like since we've released 2018, the trays now, you double click these to close, and I actually mapped the trays to Control right to close the right one, Control left to open. Well, see if I have that one working. Yeah, Control left will open and close these guys. But that's pretty much it. But definitely let me know if there's something that I do and you want me to call it out. I'd be happy to make sure I mention what that is. So for right now, I'm kind of in this phase where I'm not doing too much crazy stuff right now, but I'm going to try and cruise. The last couple times I get so wrapped up in talking and then kind of lose focus, but I'm going to try and power through a couple things. And what I'm doing now is, let's see, how can I do, we'll bring Keyshot over. So I'm kind of getting to just building a base render scene here to start going through and doing some renders, which let me know if this looks dark. My screen rendering on this Cintiq is a little off from my right monitor, but so I kind of keep bouncing back and forth. I have this thing over to the right, so I'll come back to this. I'm sort of just filling basic materials and just trying to do some test renders before I start posing. So I want to get to that hopefully by the end. So last little bits are getting these clothes working. And the best way I found to get this is I've got just the base jacket, but going through and I was starting to go through and apply surface noise. So starting to get stripes based on UVs, but it was more tedious to get everything to line up. So what I'm doing now is going in and extracting out each one of these pieces is basically a simple assigning a mask with surface noise and then extracting and make a clean Z-remeshed piece from this. So then later I can combine all these, but this is just to kind of get the line and flow of all these things working to the way that I want. So now I can alt click on this subtool and kind of, whoops, I'm kind of just rearranging these manually to line these up a little bit better. And I've auto grouped these, so I just took these guys. This is one of my hotkeys, polygroup, auto group. I have Control Shift P. Yeah, Control Shift P. So then I'm just going in now and tidying up any, I can say grab this one, go in and just use a little, oops, let's turn off my Control right, turn off my spotlight projection so I can actually sculpt on this. This actually turned out to be quite a tedious process of getting these kind of puffy stripes that he's got going in this jacket, and I'll show you what I'm kind of working with just from an example here. So if I pull this up, you can't quite see it. Like he's got these pockets. You can see sort of the rim light bouncing off these sort of riveted stripes happening, and they're kind of going up and then going across in different directions. So what I've been doing is in the surface noise, I'm going to go in. I've assigned polygroups, and these have UVs assigned based on these polygroups. So what I can do is grab, say, this group, mask this off, or rather just grab this. The mesh is filled with the solid white. So I'm going into the noise plugin, and if we can just go through and I'll turn the color down. So I tried doing this, going through and adding strength, playing around with the angle. So this is kind of giving me a rough stripe here. But then if I really increase the strength, the problem I'm running into is even at, I've got this thing subdivided up to a few million. Yeah, total it's about 5.6 million. So at that highest level, applying it, even with clean Z-Remesh topology, if I go through and apply this, you get a pretty good job, which I could then just go in and maybe do like a little polish to kind of smooth that out, which works, but the only issue is that to get these clean sort of lines without any jagged polys kind of shooting across, there's really, I could maybe take it to Sculptris Pro or try and rebuild topo on top of this so it's a little bit better. But instead, what I'm doing is, let's go back. Going into the noise, doing no strength, and then using Noisemaker to actually extract a mask from this. So applying, just selecting a solid black here and setting the color blend all the way to 1. So make sure this guy is at a perfect 100%. Now these lines, based on those UV layouts, like I could send this over to Maya and really, it's basically, I just did quick and dirty UV master UVs. So sort of aligning things and all of that becomes a little bit just too much work. So I can kind of just manually tweak this. So I've got the mask and I can go in and I can apply this to that mesh. So I'm applying it so that way I can go into masking, and inside of masking, mask by color, we can do a mask by intensity. So it's seeing that pure black and white. I can mask it, which now the mask is assigned to the black areas, but you can't see it because the poly paint's covering this up. So in my UI, I've got the colorize option here, which is basically the same thing as this paintbrush. So turning the paintbrush off will show you the mask. So I've got this up here so I can actually keep my right tray closed. And then next thing I want to do is, maybe I've been just doing a little control click to blur it and then sharpen it just to remove that spacing. But even before that, like what you can do is, if I go back to previous visibility before I apply this, this is where Noisemaker comes into play. So I can actually go into the edit Noisemaker plugin, and here I can play around with the stripe width. So if I want the spacing of that mask to be a little bit wider or less wide, so I've got more room to work with that, and then click OK, go in, let's apply that, and then do the mask by intensity, turn off our colorize. So now with this mask here, I can now go into subtool and just do a very quick extract. So my setting is already kind of preset for me experimenting before, but thickness at 0.003, if I run this, so this basically generates that part or that piece. So I think for his pockets, the only thing I want to do is increase the amount of, just looking at that image, there's a little bit more divisions across of this. So we can maybe go into the plugin scale, shrink this down to maybe 0.003. That's too much. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. 0.005. And let's click OK. Do this one more time. And then I'm going to click accept. So let's do this as pockets. So now with this created, all these inner parts I probably don't need as much, but my goal would be to actually convert all of this to, oops, where's the jacket? One final mesh. So I'll probably project all this onto the jacket itself. So then I've got this piece. Now I want to get a clean ZRemesh of that, so these themselves, this is where that polygroup auto group, if you run this auto group, these are separate shells now. And I want to ZRemesh this. So ZRemesh, turning adaptive off, so the adaptive's not going to see some of the wonky edges. It's just going to try and create a clean, just basically tube of this. So I'll try this by default and see what this gives me. Oh, Ebbyvids, you were dark AF as you're referring to the key shot. Okay, I will. I don't know. I can maybe go through and. I just cranked up the brightness on this guy. Let's see. Is that a little better for keyshot as far as the scene goes? Yeah, so anyways, going back to this, so this is what you get from the just basically trying to automatically Z-remesh that extract, which isn't very nice. So I was experimenting with the Z-remeshers, looking at that surface, even turning adaptive off doesn't quite create a clean surface, but literally just going into deformation and doing a polish. So kind of smoothing those edges out. And then let's go back and do this again. There we go. So that gives a much better result. So then now what I'm going to do is go in and just kind of play around with this shape. So I might just solo out the pockets. And let's go with just this. Ruhala, your question about Z-sphere topology and for going for game res, we can definitely topo in ZBrush. We can use Z-sphere topology, and that really comes down to your preference. I mean, there's definitely applications that are dedicated solely to topology that are going to have a wider tool set for those kinds of retopoing tools and building stuff. Z-sphere topo is actually quite nice to just have access to, but I would say I would definitely try to at least block out. What I might end up actually having to do here is resurfacing on top of this, which I would personally, if it were up to me, I would just do it in ZBrush. That way I can just stay here and I don't have to deal with exporting and importing files and all of that. But you don't, I guess to answer your question in short, you don't have to. You can stay in ZBrush. But as far as making those maps and doing all that kind of stuff for baking, we do have stuff as well for that, but you're almost better off to just go take ZBrush and sort of you could even retopo in ZBrush and then create your low poly, high poly bake assets here in ZBrush and just export those out and do the baking in, say, Marmoset, which I've actually been experimenting a lot with Marmoset. And what I'd like to do for this guy is do a game ready version of this. So if I can get this thing all done as far as these prompts and assets, then I actually might want to go through and go do that process whatever I can in ZBrush, which that might be for, say, the next stream if I can actually get some stuff done here. Dougie knows I've been just making little incremental adjustments and modifications to this scene, but still not quite there yet. I was actually just thinking today, I want to try and do maybe a vehicle. If you look at this scene here, it's him in the street view and you've got the Bladerunner car in the back. Thinking about doing a sci-fi mashup of a vehicle using ZBrushes, maybe Libooleans and some Dynamesh, and creating a Mario Kart mashup with a Bladerunner vehicle, if that is even possible. But I think I want to try and recreate this scene maybe. So if I can get this guy done, then we'll move on to that. Do some hard surface, and I still have to finish the Bladerunner gun as well, which I started doing that maybe last stream. Yeah, right? Nothing is ever quite there. It's so true. It's really just if it has a deadline, it's well, do as much as you can until the deadline's up, and you just turn it in. so let's go pocket. And let's see everything. So then I just want to make sure that this is all tucked in. So I'm pretty much just going to probably do a reproject of all these lines then on top of another clean surface. Oh, those are getting a little wonky over there. Let's go. So this is where I'm going into my custom menu. So I've got a modify topo, which has got delete hidden, split hidden, weld points, all my basic topo stuff. So if I just want to get rid of a group, I can easily just, I press the 2 key, loads up my menu, and I can click delete hidden. Display properties double. And then same in this menu, close holes, so I can just kind of quickly close that up. Get rid of that one. I'm going to do a split hidden. So I'm going to take these guys, close holes. Let's just do a quick save and then a quick Z remesh. Hey, side effects, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. So these are about 4,000. Let's see if we can do maybe 3. A little bit more. We can maybe smooth. Oh no, not that much. Maybe it'd be better to do just a little polish. Yeah, so I just split those off so I could basically push this projection underneath that pocket so it's not overlapping on that. Let's try just a quick inflate by 1. Doing it this way, I find, well, not only a little bit more fun. I mean, it's not as procedural as, say, like doing a very, very clean UV layout and then going in and applying that on top with like a surface noise or another procedural kind of tool. But this gives it a little bit more, I guess, hand-controlled look. Let's just tuck these in for that final projection. So let's go subtools, check what we got here. Alright, not too shabby. So let's see what I want to do. I'm going to quick save. Good side effects, very good. A little tired today. I was actually teaching a ZBrush class last night pretty late, and we got a lot of stuff going on here at Pixologic as well. So if you can't hear it in my voice, sorry. I'm normally I think I'm a little bit more energetic, but today I'm just feeling a little groggy. Have any of you guys been watching World Cup? Everybody here at the office has been in and out of the conference room. I didn't see the final for Croatia and England. So I'm going to copy that tool and just work on a duplicate of this. Oh, you are Croatian. All right. Did you guys win? Last time I saw it was 1-1. Man, you guys had a great... Croatia had a wonderful game against Russia. I did watch that one. That was nuts. You know what? I don't know if I like this one. Finals with France. Nice. Congratulations. That's insane. It's going to be a great game. Alright, so what do I want to do here? I do want to... Let's see, make a duplicate of this. So there's my high res. So I'm just taking this jacket subtool. I'm going to duplicate this. Save that one for projection. This one's going to be... It's the boring version of rugby. Dougie, keep going for it. No holds barred. I like it. You know, to be honest, I don't watch rugby, but Dougie, where are you from? I want to say I've asked you that before, but yeah, people do get offended by a lot of things. But you know what? To each their own. If you like rugby, you like rugby. Dude 2. What's up? How's it going? Farming hills in the hand shape. Farming fields with a hand shaped like a min. Was that you're referring to Michigan? Football's one of the most unsuccessful sports in Croatia. Really? Unsuccessful? How so? Like, as far as like viewership goes? Since 1998. Wow. Oh, I see. You're saying since 1998, Croatia hasn't been competitive in. Dude 2's not offended. There you go. Well, you know, I would hope that ZBrush people can find some common ground. We do have we have a communal thing that we all share, right? So you got to respect everybody else. You're better in water polo. Interesting. Skiing, handball. Handball, huh? That's a popular thing. Blah, blah. Like everything. Everything but football, basically, right? Topo, let's do. I want to close the. Let's see if I can do a stroke. Frame. Nope. It's not quite doing it for me. Water polo should be played with real horses in a pool of 5 deep. Perhaps harpoons. Man, you're talking like bringing back extreme sports. That's like gladiator style. I don't know. I think it's inevitable. American football's going to end up doing that. It's only a matter of time. How can I close this? Here we go. Let's go. Stroke, frame. And we'll grab the ZRemesher guide. Let's get rid of. Maybe add a point here, a point there. Joy. So now we can try the curve bridge. Nope. Let's see, what can I do? Just realizing now what I did was I ZRemeshed this thing and I deleted all these extra inner pieces of geo, but now I want to go through and I want to dynamesh this new stuff I've added, and because it's flat topology, the dynamesh is going to do that. If you ever have seen it before, it does that Swiss cheese effect where it creates holes. Polygroup it. What I probably should just do is resurf this anyways with Topo. We'll see how this goes. It's at least sealed off for now. Maybe grab the smooth, stronger brush. It's okay for now. Now let's go, let's see what I want, these stripes. Okay, let's see what this gives us. Merge visible. Oh, whoops. Actually, before I do that, Let's see what this res gives us. Side effects, you're saying you really need more work with ZModeler to understand it better. Yeah, have you watched any of our ZClassroom videos? We do have oh geez, these are all a little too... Oh, whoops, too low. Hey, Pixologic Kyle. The yeah, those those ZModeler vids are, I mean, they're not fully sort of like going through and saying, okay, this is how you can make this specific thing, but it does go through each individual action, so you can kind of get the gist of what it does. And yeah, I spend a great deal of time just experimenting with, you know, different ways of making use of it, and I'm still finding more ways to kind of add it into things where I can in ZBrush as much as possible. Let's go up a little bit higher. Your traditional sculptor anatomy knowledge gets you... Yeah, that's for sure. That's a invaluable skill set. If you know anatomy, that's honestly, being able to sculpt to that degree is honestly the most important thing. And all the technical stuff is really just efficiency, right? It just makes it a little bit easier to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do, or do as quickly maybe in that regard. So you transitioned from, that was side effects. Yeah, I mean, good technical tools go a long way. That's absolutely for sure. I mean, you can't deny it. But it's one of those things. It's like, where are you going to start? It's like trying to master all factors of everything. It's to learn probably the traditional skills. You probably spent decades sculpting and sculpting repetitively over and over until you become sort of a master of that, and then trying to bridge into more technical areas and trying to make use of stuff like ZBrush. And that's good to hear for Sculptris Pro. Honestly, we spent a lot of time going back and forth on that particular feature and how to make the best use of what it can do and what it offers as opposed to Dynamesh. And yeah, I feel I'm sort of the reverse of you. I started in ZBrush when I was 16, and I kind of stayed there ever since. So clay sculpting to me is more foreign than digital. But I've taken a lot of sculpting courses in clay and tried to study just basic sort of procedures of sculpting in clay and apply that digitally as much as possible. Although ZBrush does work a little differently as far as that goes. Like I cheat and I use subdivisions and I sculpt on top of subdivided surfaces. But being able to sculpt just one solid surface, Sculptris Pro seems to be, I would imagine, it's probably very, very close to what it's like in clay, just pulling something out. No project polypaint. You've had ZBrush for 2 months now? So did you purchase? Are you still using the trial maybe? Okay, I'm going to let this project. I'll be right back. let's see, how did that turn out? And I don't know how I'm feeling about that process. Still gonna keep giving me those jagged surfaces. I think what I'm gonna have to do is retopo on top of that OG piece. Let's need this. New code subdivs. Yeah, well, actually, I went to get coffee this time. I still may have to go use the restroom and take a rest. But we'll see. Got another hour. What do I got left? I'm kind of just, if it's not clear, I'm still sort of experimenting with different ways to get a good result. It's always good to try things out. But let's see, what do I want to do? We can leave that for now. May do a quick update with a little bit of changes. Alright, let's see. Copy that material, paste it. I forgot to mention this. Dougie, I saw you said earlier you're from Michigan. Have we talked about this? That I'm also from Michigan. Jackson, to be specific. Let's go, no noise plugin. Jackson, Michigan. Are you presently lapping against the shore? Yeah, I'm from Jackson originally. I moved out to Los Angeles 2008-ish. Yeah, the prison. That's so funny you brought that up. Yep, it is very much well known as I believe the world's second largest brick wall, or the country's second largest brick walled prison. A real staple. Oh, that's a little too much, eh? Alright, let's let that guy go. Alright, so let me take a look here. What else do I gotta get going? Definitely need to get to some poly painting. Got some surface texture on the clothes. How about a different style hat? And he needs a cane as well. What could we do? Side effect, she said ZBrush has interesting history. How so? I definitely would agree with you. I will say it is quite an amazing place to work for, and since I've been in ZBrush for so long, it's just kind of become such a staple in my in my life. I'm just constantly surrounded by it, and to be honest, it's great. Oh, here we go. I got an idea. Yoshi 1, and let's do a... Pixologic Michael, tuning in. So I'm thinking about his cane, right? And wondering how about... We talked about doing a Yoshi origami piece for gaff, since definitely he's definitely going to do that. That's for sure. Which I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. Maybe something like this, or like this, maybe like sort of like a very rudimentary, crude origami Yoshi. But for the cane, let's just do a double Yoshi action. So maybe do a... myself a little bit more space here and do a quick save. Man, his nose is just huge, isn't it? Where are we at in 3D space here? I'm going to go turn on transpose. Oh, I don't need to. I forgot I duplicated that. So make this a little bit smaller, so I get a bigger draw size. And then let's go get the floor off of there too. I don't know about you, but I can't stand sculpting with the floor on. It's just an eyesore. I'm sure side effects you know, especially being a clay sculptor, you probably don't want to I don't know. It's like this gets into like technical stuff, right? Like when you're sculpting, for me, it's just like a visual acuity thing. Like I just want to feel like I'm just working with a nice clay surface. That's why I have like the trays where I can strip those down. Oh, sorry, I haven't checked the chat. Seagull Rush, did you make the jacket today on stream? I wanted to ask, but I think I didn't make this the jacket here. I did make it in the last stream, which you can check. That VOD should be there. But you wanted to ask how, which basically, in a nutshell, anytime like I do something like when I'm getting into just building a shape, I always start with building the body first and work outwards, so sort of extracting from that. So I believe I started by, I basically just made the body, just a very simple sort of round silhouette shape, and then going in and grabbing just a masked area, like sort of painting in a shirt. So then you take this, we can go through, extract just to get a piece. So this just gives you something. So then now going through, I start by just kind of polishing this thing out and then going straight to ZRemesh. And then maybe I reduce it as much as possible. Then from there, we can start by just starting to reshape this surface. So sort of like pulling this down. I know for sure that I wanted to have that open, so I just kind of remove those portions, delete the hidden, close the holes, and then we can take this, ZRemesh that guy. So now you've got an open surface, and then it's just going through and continuing to sort of tweak this while in low poly state, bringing out the arms. And then I would definitely check out the VOD, because I went in to do the collar. The collar I actually go through and I bring in a separate object, shape that on top, dynamesh it together, seal it up, and then ZRemesh that together. Oh yeah, the stripe technique. I did definitely. It's in the VOD, because that was actually kind of a new thing that I worked out today. How to figure out how to get these parts into pieces, which I'll show you briefly, really quick. I can show you. Let's go grab, get the underlying jacket surface. So I started out by just creating basic polygroups, and then I went through and just looked at the major sections of it. So I got the shoulders as a group, the front half of the jacket as a polygroup, the back half, the collar is separated. So all the major shells that, if you look at my UV layout, it's just sort of like stripping up the parts like where the clothing seams exist as much as I could. And this is ZRemesh topo, so it's not gonna, like, what I'm probably gonna have to do is now go back and resurface everything together with these new parts and pieces. I was trying earlier to get the projections working, like dynamesh it all together and then ZRemesh it and then reproject, but I'm still not quite perfectly happy with just some of the lines and edges, which I could have spent a little bit more time doing a cleaner projection process. This is kind of quick and rough. So it gives me at least a full solid mesh with all those things on it. But if I go back to the original, to create those extractions, let's say I create my UV based on my UV shells, I can say grab just the back portion here. I was sort of working one by one. So starting off with the back, isolating out that polygroup, and in surface noise, going into the surface noise editor, starting off by, I want to do the noise plugin, and the noise plugin has the, if you click edit, we have the stripes option. So stripes is just turning this on. This basically gives you now, with the UV option enabled, I'm using my UV shells for this. So now if I just turn on the color to make it a little bit more visible, I can control this pattern on that surface. Now if I do that for everything, you'll see the orientation is going to change every time it hits those shells, basically. So using those UV shells, the seams aren't going to quite match up unless I go through and really build very, very, very clean UVs that match up across every sort of border. So kind of doing the UVs first, and it would even be better to go in and maybe just go somewhere else and modify my UVs a little bit further. This is all just quick and dirty ZBrush UV master. But this pattern, I can start by focusing on the back, and instead of applying this, the problem I ran into is if I increase the strength, for example, so we turn the color masking down, if I want to apply this as a sculptural change, which would be less work, this thing I subdivided in total, I think it was about 6 million. But this part right here is about 1 million, and if I apply this, it's going to give me a decent result, but then what happens is you're just basically getting sort of jagged edges and surfaces, which I could go in and maybe do a little deformation polish to relax that, but it's never going to quite keep that very clean. So instead I tried doing this, where going back to the noise plugin, instead of doing any strength, set that to 0 and use the color blend all the way to 1 with a black color. So what I'm going to do is basically apply an alpha to extract from. So going in, applying this to the mesh, whoops, make sure we turn colorize on, apply that to the mesh. Actually, I need to apply that at the highest subdivision level so I get clean polypaint. So apply it, one more, colorize is on. So it's now applying that, basically just that black and white color to these areas. So then what I can do is go into masking, do the mask by intensity. So that's just looking at the difference between that pure black and pure white. And if I mask by intensity, it's masked all the black parts of that alpha, essentially. But I can't see it because the colorize is still on. So if I colorize, meaning just the paintbrush icon here, and or the same thing, which is the polypaint colorize. So turning this off will show you what that mask is. So I don't want to do it for this front part. Let's just focus on the back. So now you got that mask applied, going into subtool, and we're going to actually extract a certain thickness. So this tolerance I think I found worked best. So just going in and doing a quick extract and generating out a separate piece of geo. And then right now it's in preview, so let's go just click accept. So it's going to generate this new piece. So then this guy, now that this is a pretty high poly object, and I want to Z-remesh this. Like, it actually looks nice and clean, but some of these surfaces, like, they shouldn't be connected. Like, this is where that mask needs to be polished up a little bit. So going back to the object, maybe applying Control-Alt-Click to blur it, which will also shrink. But then this is where actually going back to the state before, I can actually start over and go color, fill object. This is where the plugin comes into play, where you can actually use it to your advantage. So going back to noise, I actually saved the preset out so I could load this later. So going into edit, save as. But in the noise plugin edit option, we've got in stripes, we can actually control the stripe width. So we can reduce the black and white value, so I can give it a little bit more space in between it, so that extract's going to make sure that they're separated. Those stripes are individually disconnected, basically. So reducing that a little bit. Let's go back, apply this again. So no strength, just making sure that color blend is all the way to 1. And then let's go back, do a mask by intensity, and then turn off my colorize so I can see the mask, and let's try it one more time. And of course, the quality of the mask, so let's click accept to get that piece. The quality of the extract, is going to be dependent on the quality of that mask. So increasing the subdivisions of the mesh that I'm drawing on would definitely help make that mask a little bit cleaner. But doing it this way, the goal is to Z-remesh it. So starting off by Z-remesher picks up all the little surfaces and the little grooves and edges. So first applying a quick polish, which is just going to kind of smooth the whole thing out, which helps Z-remesher to evaluate it to just do a quick auto unwrap and reduce all these stripes down to a low poly object. So this is kind of just like a rough out. And then let's go, what I did is I did a poly group, auto group to give me a unique group shell for each one of these. And then going to Z-remesher, turning adaptive off. Adaptive will just kind of basically just make basic simple tubes without trying to evaluate that surface as much. So turning that off, Z-remesh it. And doing it this way, getting this low poly object just makes it a little bit easier to manipulate. I can go through and apply inflates to bridge the gap of those spaces between them, and also just using the move brush to kind of realign stuff or kind of rework the angle or direction. So we got this now, and then let's unsolo that. So I'll just turn on just the coat. So basically you get these little low poly stripes. So very low poly, down to about 14,000 total, but then this is where I can maybe go in and maybe add a subdivision to start smoothing it out, go into deformation, inflate this to maybe like 3, oh, not too much. Let's do it one at a time. Do a 1, and maybe do it like 0.5, one more. So now you got this piece, so I'll just turn this one off. So that was the basic process. So then everything else, delete that guy. So I basically went through and applied that for everything, and all that is sitting on top of the surface. So now once I got all these things sort of lined up, I went and did each major chunk, sort of played around, like took this particular one here, kind of just using the move brush to kind of pull this back, sort of follow the seam and the lines going. And then now it's just about trying to get all this to be one contiguous mesh, which will be the next process, which I've tried. Like I mentioned, I tried to do the dynameshing all this together and then remeshing it so it's all one mesh. But like I said, the edges aren't quite as nice, so I think what I'm going to do is go through and merge it all and retopo on top to get a cleaner, specific flow that's going to extract those little stripes. But yeah, hopefully that explains it, and I think I went through it a little bit in more detail, sort of experimenting with it in the VOD once this is all done. Side effects. Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's a good amount of too much information. I know I feel like that when I end my ZBrush classes with students. I'm just like, I sort of go down these rabbit holes. There's just so much in ZBrush, you know. Also realizing I don't need that one. I don't know where I was going with that guy. $325. All right. Actually thought it was going to be a little worse. It's not so bad. Okay, so his eye line, roughly. So I think what I'm going to do here is do a geo, go to edge loop. So I got this polygroup here. So assigning a polygroup, I can go do a group loop, which will add a nice clean bunch of edges here. So those edges, actually I only really want one, so I can undo it. I'm going to go back to group loops and change the setting to just one loop. So that'll give me a stripe there. And then now we can do things like taking the, see, that's going to be, so adding that stripe there, I can go in and do this, where where multiple groups meet. So the blue meets the purple meets the green. Going into div, I want to get that sort of crease line around the nose. So doing a polish by features. So clicking and dragging the slider will basically smooth out those edges and try and sharpen up that where those polygroups meet. But clicking open this gray button and applying that polish should start to smooth that out a lot more to create that sort of crease. And then now I can just take this, blur that way, and start playing around with the sort of tapering of this. Geo, so let's see. turn off maybe a little polish. Okay, I'm going to cheat here. So I got, just to save you guys the time of watching me trying to figure out the darn silhouette of Yoshi's head. So I just got Spotlight in here. I'm going to go in here, sort of just realign this roughly. Okay. Wasn't that far off, but something just felt wrong. I don't know. Okay. No more cheating, I promise. Well, maybe. Actually, no promises. It's like this needs to be more. Okay, let's go do a little. Alright, so let's do a. I'm going to duplicate that guy. Grab a polysphere. And then let's take this, click on the gear, and let's go remesh by Dyna. So I'm just going to Dyna this guy. And now I think what I'm going to do is actually take this, since I haven't been doing that much of this. Sorry, old habits die hard, you know. Dynamesh just has been so ingrained. But let's go and do a little Sculptris. Accept. Okay, so I'm such a high-res nut. I'm going to go into my Sculptris Pro, switch to, I don't know, say clay buildup or different brush besides moving. I do my undivide at 1, and my, see, what was my tolerance, like 0.75. So that way it just gives me, I would use the smooth brush to change my resolution as I go along, which is sort of like a, for me, because I'm so used to sculpting along subdivisions, I always do like large gestural kind of big silhouette changes with the move brush, but I always kind of want to go in and just lightly smooth things out without going too low, but just enough. Snake hook. That was one of those times where I really wish I had orthographic view of Yoshi. No, I didn't turn lazy mouse on for that. Alright, so let's go with the clip curve. Whoops. Actually, I probably should do a quick save. So who was asking? Spectre Day was, is this for print or for game asset? Good question. I don't know yet. I was just kind of mentioning this a little bit earlier. I think what I want to do is do this for game, like do a full maybe real-time render. So do this for games once it's all done. I'll probably do a key shot render. Like a nice, I'm sort of getting to sort of like polishing out a nice sort of rough out of all my materials. Then I'm going to do a pose, which I'm looking at. Let's see, what do we got for pose references? Like traditional Bladerunner, Luigi. I had some more poses. I mean, like maybe doing gaff on the street, like doing a full full rendered scene with environment. Maybe get to, I was mentioning earlier, I kind of want to do a mashup now of the Bladerunner police car with the Super Mario Mario Kart Luigi car. So sort of mixing this sort of like sci-fi, like old 80s version of the future with Luigi's Super Mario universe, and then maybe doing that. But then I do want to actually go through and repurpose all this stuff for games. So I'll probably rebuild all this stuff, and I can do that during the stream and show you guys just some, tips and tricks on how I'd go about doing that in ZBrush, doing ZBrush retopo, that kind of stuff. So like right now, I think I'm just kind of goofing around with the this character, which I got. Let's go. Just do an inflate. Oh, what happened there? Oh, I didn't smooth all that stuff out. Whoops. So I know if you guys are getting comfortable with Sculptris Pro, I'm not using the Tessimate option, which I probably should, but I'm just kind of sticking with the brushes and okay, now let's just do a quick save, and then maybe I should start making use of this. Just to save myself all the smoothing time. Well, even then, it's just not quite gelling. I think I changed my snake hook resolution. Got some holes. Let's just do a quick modify topo, close holes. Just seal that up back there. I'm gonna have to redo this. Probably shouldn't have started with that. Hey, you know what? Let's do Control-Shift-D, duplicate that, grab a, oops, I have a mask. Inflate. Alright, so this is where I'm going to so I got a lot of proportional adjustments to make here, which now that this is all sort of like, it's not perfect by any means. I know this is looking like a pretty crappy sculpt at this point, but what else do I have to do? I gotta do the arms though. I broke my rule. I spent too much time fiddling with the sculpture. I was just trying to get a clean base with the Sculptris Pro feature. Alright, so this is where I'm just going to go. I want to do some quick proportional adjustments to get him looking right. So I'm just going to take this guy, do a quick save. Oh, I haven't checked on chat and time. What time is it? 10 minutes? Oh gosh. Oh geez, you guys been chatting about crashes? Oh no, I'm out of here. At Spectre Dave, I haven't had that problem with crashing. Oh, it's your only crash since 2016. Good deal. Hopefully that goes for all of you. Look, you know, crashes, they occur in all applications, but it's kind of a part of the business. We've been trying to we made some performance improvements to this 0.1 update. Did anybody have performance issues that you felt like existed before that are better? it seemed the reports that we've gotten, most of us, none of us have really had performance issues, but it's been very dependent on. I see you guys are talking about CPU, cores, processors. Those were the things that were evaluated, and we've made a lot of fixes to in this 0.1. So anybody who was having those before should be seeing a much better improvement overall, just with speed and some CPU that was getting taken. There was a lot of CPU going for some people with certain processors, specific ones that for some reason were causing issues. Alright, so I'm just doing a ZRemesh of this, and I like to do ZRemesh for having just a really nice clean low state, so that way I can go in here and let's do our display properties double. I'm a transpose tool guy. I don't know about you guys. I'm still rocking the old transpose tool when I can. So the arms are kind of shooting out, and that would be the next adjustment I gotta make. man, let's see what the plan was to. Okay, let's do this for the last little bit here. Let's go. Sorry, I got hung up on this one a little bit too much, more than I intended. Let's go take this now. Delete lower. I think this is my favorite thing about having Sculptris Pro, on at least on a solid mesh like this. I can go in here and just start to seal these guys up. Nice little butt sculpting. Oh no. Alright. I have not checked on the chat. Sorry if you guys are wondering what the heck is going on at this point. I'm actually was thinking about trying to do a cane. Some kind of cane. I'm gonna have to play around with this, but maybe for this particular scene I can take this now. once that thing's done, I think, I don't know, what do you guys think? Anybody who's still watching? Yoshi style handle for gaffs. Kane. I'll have to play around with some more renders and things with that particular piece, but yeah, I think I'm pretty much done here. We got 4 o'clock. I got to get back to work. But okay, let me check the questions and or comments. What's the last thing I saw? You guys are talking about the transpose tool. Yeah, that is super old school. It's just old habits die hard. Yeah, that's the only thing. I love the gizmo. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing. I'm so glad we have it now, and I still use it. But for posing and stuff, for characters, I just love transpose tool. H-Troll official. Were you asking me if I draw with the Wacom pen? The widget is used in other programs too. Yeah. H-Troll's going crazy. Yeah, if you're asking me if I draw with a Wacom pen, yes, I do. Definitely. I just can't bring myself to use a mouse as much as I possibly can avoid it. I do. But it's one of those just, I don't know, a mouse to me is so cumbersome, right? Or are you talking about like Wacom pen compared to like pencil or drawing in like ink or like one of our main developers still sculpts with a mouse, if you can believe that. But I'm pretty much gonna call it a day on this one. I left off at this point, which starting to feel good about this. Like, I gotta finalize the gun, which isn't all completely done. The backpack, I'm still kind of working on that. The backpack's got to get a lot of little extra work, which I've done the little details and things like that. But with all that said, this is pretty much it. So I will let you guys go. Oh yeah, you're good. So the Yoshi sculpt was worth it. I'm happy. It was just a rabbit hole I went down, but I'm thinking I'm gonna finalize this guy, do his hands, and finish his eyes up, make this not look so oblong and crazy, but slowly getting there. As you guys know.